Hello and welcome to the last of a 12-week series, Communicating in Crisis and Beyond. This week we're going to be focusing on social media and very specifically whether you're wasting your time on social media. I'm Jessica Shells from the Ideal Marketing Company and I'll be taking you through today. Now there's a lot to be getting through. I don't know if I've just lost my mind thinking I'm going to tackle this in less than 50 minutes, but we'll see where we can get because this is definitely a longer webinar. This is the kind of thing we're going to go through today, whether you can figure out whether you're wasting your time or not. So ideas for or questions to ask yourself, some social media myths, picking your social media channel or channels, content ideas and types, and strategies for engagement, plus some examples, the anatomy of a good post and tracking success. Like I said, there's a lot in there to be getting through. There will also be a Q&A at the end, which won't be posted on YouTube, so that anyone who's on the call has the ability to ask a question anonymously. They don't have to worry about it being immortalised on YouTube. And it's an added benefit to those who've booked them. Could you be wasting your time? You might be able to tell, but I didn't know that there was animations on this slide. And it's a repurposed webinar from a while ago, but still relevant, of course. So the purpose of social media is to build brand awareness, develop a relationship, and some valuable promotions can be in there as well. Right at the beginning of the series, we talked about the requirement to move, at the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, that communication methods would need to change so that we were more about brand building and less about promoting. Realistically, social media should probably always be more about brand building for a few different reasons. You don't get great engagement rates if you're just promoting yourself too much. It does depend on the channel, and we're going to deal with that. But also the algorithms that are being developed, particularly for business to consumer social media channels like Facebook and Instagram, are around trying to keep people on the platform and engage, and they can figure out if you're trying to just promote your business and you're not actually providing engaging content. So you'll be penalized by the algorithm behind them. So building brand awareness is a key aspect. The issue with that really is that if you are tracking digital marketing success, then it can be difficult to prove the worth of social media. And this question, are you wasting your time, is harder to answer because it will never be the highest source of converting traffic to your website unless there are paid promotions involved. And increasingly, particularly if Facebook is part of your strategy, if you are going to do promotional posts, you want to allow for the fact that some of those maybe have to be paid. It means that you're going to reach more of your audience anyway, and Facebook is relatively cheap in comparison to other platforms. But if you go to social media with the attitude that it is to help build a brand awareness, then that's helpful. Now you might be like, right, well, how can I track whether it's useless? That's a lot of time to be spending. You can have a look at mentions of your brand. So what you should see is if there's an increased brand awareness, then in Google your brand should be searched more frequently, with the traffic of people coming to your website being through your company or your name. It should also be to develop a relationship, build that know, like and trust, so that conversion rates are improved. And when an opportunity to buy from you comes up, they are more likely to feel like they know you well enough and feel connected to your ethos. So particularly at this time, people aren't spending so much money, they're being careful. If you're spending that time on social media, building that relationship, letting people know what you're about, and that you're the person to trust with their money when they do come to spend it, then when we come out the other side of this in earnest, they are more likely to convert. So you're playing the long game with any brand building activities. Also, you can make some valuable promotions. So there are different kind of stages. If you review there's a few different webinars in the series which do refer to this in different ways. The last one, where we actually dealt with content, is about copywriting and content. There are different types of content depending upon where somebody is in a sales journey or in their customer journey, actually, really, where when they're at the very beginning, they don't really know you very well, they probably want more shallow, fun things. They're not invested in getting to know much about you, and they're not necessarily very interested in your product. They might be interested in something that answers the question they've got. And as they go further along in that getting to know you, they might be more likely to watch and explain a video or read a guide or something like that. So the promotions that you provide are more likely to be the soft sell, where you're providing value to them. It's more about inbound marketing, which is the stuff that people are looking for answers to, that solves their problem. So there's some valuable promotions. Like I said, if you really want to out and out promote a product, then you probably want to put some money behind it, just because of reach. Now you can assess this. I feel like I'm actually like front loading most of the things I was going to talk about later on, but it'll be fine. I'll just repeat myself. It's more important to make sure that I say it at all. If you, because of the algorithm changes, the impact that it could have is, say you post something that is completely non-promotional, you will probably see a better reach of your audience. Whereas if you write something that is promoting something, then you will not reach as many of your available because of your audience, because 100 likes don't mean 100 views of anything. I'm going to repeat this in a bit. So it's also answering this question is not as cut and dry, is not completely cut and dry. So we will assess if social media is right for you. It's not right for everybody, because realistically there just might be better things to be doing. I think also it's more important than ever to ask this question, and it's going to become increasingly important to ask this question about any marketing, because when I finished my degree, there wasn't any. It was a little bit ago, it was like 15 years ago, but there weren't social media. My job didn't exist, or one of my jobs, head of digital marketing, that didn't exist. Managing director did do, but that wasn't a job that existed. We did a bit of HTML code. Google it only just was kind of about. So now we've got increasing numbers of social media platforms and different ways of engaging with your audience. So you can't afford to do all the channels. There isn't enough time, there isn't enough money. This is an opportunity to get good and continue to get good at assessing the right channels to use for your business, and then to do them properly. Don't do all the stuff. It's exhausting. So number one, we'll talk about really how to assess what's right for you. It might be that the social media channels that you're using are actually perfect for you and your audience, but maybe the way that you're using it isn't ideal. So there are some things that we'll be able to talk about during the process of this webinar. And also your time might be better spent somewhere else. That mini rant that I just gave you, potentially it could be that a podcast would be better for you. PR would be you'd reach more of your audience and have a better impact. But if you don't go through the assessment, then you won't know. So some quick social media myths. Social media is free. It's not. It takes your time, and your time might be better. If you're not getting any traction or engagement, or no one's seeing what you're doing, then it's not the same. Hours could be spent better somewhere else, even if it is having a nap, so that you are more refreshed and able to make better strategic decisions, be a better boss, be a better colleague, be a better everything, really. So I don't normally say don't do marketing, have a nap instead. That's not my new catchphrase. You've got to be strategic with your time. Social media isn't free. A helpful exercise that one of the ladies on the call will definitely agree with, Margot Clark, is just reviewing exactly how much your time is worth, and assessing whether on a per hourly basis, if you're spending X amount of hours on social media a week, would you be better off paying somebody else to do it? But considering the fact that there are some people out there with very reasonable social media rates and who will do the job better as well. So social media is never free just because you're not spending money on it. Social media is suitable for everyone. No, it's not. I have an annoying habit of when someone's like, oh, can you set me up a social media account, of saying, why? I just want to understand the rationale to make sure that it is appropriate. But yeah, we only like to do things if they're going to be helpful and valuable. You should be on all social media so you don't miss anyone. No, and that is because different social media there's different rules, different ways to do things. You should also be trying to respond to people, and it should be a two-way thing. It shouldn't just be a posting out to the world. That's if you're just sending stuff out, then you're behaving like a 1930s advertising person who's just, if you can just imagine one of those, I can't remember what it's called now, loudspeaker things. They're like a cone. You know, you're just sending your message out. It's the so pay attention to. It should be a two-way interaction. That's where you're really going to get know, like, and trust. And if you're dedicating some resources or some time to doing that properly, good luck. Twitter is a perfect example of this, where in order to make the best out of Twitter, you want to be creating conversations with people who are relevant, authentic conversations as well, and engaging with them. It's not just about sending stuff up, because it's too fast moving. So the questions to ask yourself before committing to any particular channel is there any ongoing care, maintenance, and can you handle it? Like I said, Twitter is one of the higher high maintenance. You know, I think everybody's got a high maintenance friend or has had a high maintenance partner maybe at some point. Is there ongoing care, maintenance, and can you handle it? Even if you're getting a social media supplier to, I don't know what's wrong with my words today, to help out with the actual posting and the creation of the content, you also need to be able to respond, and not many companies will provide that response, in part because they don't necessarily know what to say, particularly if there's any kind of customer service a requirement as well. It could be impossible. So in-house, you're probably still going to need to get people to respond. This is particularly, I mean, I'm really dealing with business to consumer social media more than anything. I think the people who are here today, it's going to be business to business, and the main thing that they're focusing on are you know, LinkedIn in particular, so I'm not going to focus too much on that. Can you identify shared values and interests of your customers? The second webinar in this series is on personas. I have probably referred to it in every single webinar since, because it's the fundamental thing that I do with all clients. If once you understand your customers, you understand your target audience, marketing becomes so much easier. So once you've identified your share values, so go back, if you don't know, go back and do that, and then after you've watched this, of course, and the result of the personas helps your messaging, and it helps you to understand what kind of content will be valuable for your customers. Check whether your customer groups are actually on that social media. What you might find is a persona is a grouping of customers. So actually you might find, well, this one particular group would be great for me to engage with on LinkedIn, but this different group I'm going to engage with on Facebook, and to recognise that they're different. For example, estate agents will be dealing with the end customer, so the people that they actually sell houses to or rent to, whereas they may want to, so that might be a Facebook interaction, whereas LinkedIn would be better for landlords, maybe property developers who would give them the supply to sell on, because with estate agents it is a two-way sales process. They need to get the properties in, and they need to be able to then fill them, you know, whether that's because they're selling and renting, or just selling, or just renting. So that's where they would identify that not all channels are appropriate for all customer groups. The better that you can, the more narrow casted you can be, the more engaging you can be. If you're trying to talk skin, you're more likely to just appeal to nobody. So can you position yourself as or your brand as a supportive expert? Other things, and your Q&A can often, your FAQs even, your FAQs can be a really good source of the kind of content and the kind of supportive thing that you can provide. So is there enough content to keep it fresh as well? Really brainstorm some ideas, and we'll talk about the kind of things that you can think about. But also, is there a customer service requirement? So this is kind of going up to the first point, but this is even more extreme. There was a couple of business consumer brands that we dealt with, and if it took too long for their customer service to respond, they would go to Twitter to try to resolve a ticket or to resolve an outstanding issue. Now, that would have been impossible for any social media company to deal with. So in the end, there was some software used that integrated it with the ticketing system, and that was a necessary step. The reason why they were and it almost felt like it complicated things. The important thing was that they were there, seen to be responding and seen to be resolving things as quickly as possible. It became a cross between customer service and reputation management in the end, as well as promotional posts. So it's kind of a complex relationship in that situation. But if you can't say, if you're saying no to all of these things, you're facing an uphill struggle, be like ice skating uphill. Or sorry, the last one, is there a customer service requirement? It's going to be more complicated, so just allow for that and look ahead. So if social media is right for you, so if you decided, yes, I can deal with it, pick one to start with and get good at it. I think the majority of the people who are going to be looking at this at the moment or on the call, well, people on the call, I know that they have already, they're already doing social media. I think we're far enough into it by now, but be kind to yourself and develop some good practice. This is things like not sitting down and going, God, I really just need to send a post now, today, if not 5 minutes ago. That's really hard, and social media professionals would find that hard. You know, people who do this for full-time job, I wouldn't do that to myself. What you do is you set a solid amount of time up and you think of quite a few different ideas and templates, and also use the guides that we're going to go through. So block off time, you'll get into flow, more things will come to you. If you're not in the right mindset, pick a different time with more energy. But brainstorm those ideas and collect them together and produce a content calendar. Also review the data on a regular basis to inform decisions. This is in part so that you see what posts do work for you and do more of that, and what doesn't work for you and do less of that. And as algorithms change, this will also change. So I was talking about how Facebook and Instagram are less likely to like explicit calls to action and promotional outbound links, because it takes people away from their channel, which is what they want for you to be spending time on and coming back to. So what you that you might find that those promotional posts on Facebook just don't work, whereas if you do them on LinkedIn, they're absolutely fine, because that's what LinkedIn's about. So review the data so that you can get better. There are these these general rules I'm talking about, but they will change as well because algorithms are constantly being updated. And ensure that there is a conversion strategy at some point. So likes don't necessarily evolve to cash in the bank. While you can't promote outright, you do want to think about where you're trying to get to. So there should be something that does develop. If the point is to raise brand awareness and build know, like and trust, then what posts will help people know you and know your brand, like you and like your brand, trust. And there's some types of posts that you can go through. It's just a bit of fun, just so that we can understand the different channels and help people to assess where to spend time. But it's also one that was created a long time ago. So Google Plus is at the bottom. Google Plus doesn't exist. The way that Google really works now is Google My Business and posting things that really helps for location heavy stuff. But it's all still true. Instagram, I think, has massively developed as a channel in this time. It's a little bit of fun. So which social media is right for you? This helps a kind of metaphors to help understand the different channels, and it will continue to evolve. So Facebook, I've always seen as being more like a garden party or a barbecue. You are far more likely to actually know in real life the people who you are friends with on Facebook and have interactions with them on a regular basis. The same is true of the pages that you like. They are more likely to be brands that you do engage with. Whereas with Instagram, it is not weird to have Instagram only friends or connections, or support groups for specific themes that you care about. So it might be Fitspo, like fitness inspiration. It could be about gardening. It is completely normal to just follow somebody because you like their posts, but you are never likely to meet them and to have this interaction where they know your username and they don't actually know your name, and you live in opposite sides of the world. The reason why I've compared to Facebook to a garden party is because you only really get posts from people who you have said you are happy to be friends with, or companies that you are happy to share information with. It's far more permission based. Unfortunately now it's more like a garden party that has been sponsored by whoever, and that is what is turning people off Facebook a little bit more, because it's a little bit too easy. Like they're just probably showing me a bit too much promotional content. I'm not sure the balance is quite right, and that's why it feels wrong, is because in the main the people I see, people who I genuinely care and like about, and then all of a sudden there's this promotional message, and the balance isn't quite right. But the fact is, unless I've invited you to my garden party, you're not coming in, or unless you know somebody that I know. So the same thing, I could see a post that a friend of mine has shared, or I could see something that one of my friends, a friend's friend. So a friend of mine could invite one of their friends and that'd be fine. So that's how that works. One of the benefits of that is that traditionally you are more likely to develop a relationship that might lead to a conversion or a sale, but this is really for business to consumer type thing. So you can get an awful lot of the know, like and trust built there, because they are more likely that it's more of a microcosm. With Instagram, I was racking my brains trying to think of a real life example of what goes on, because it can be so many things to so many different people. It is beautiful because there are always images. There's no point in posting something to Instagram if there isn't an image, or a video, even better. But a lot of the time it's more about the theme that people are looking for support with, whether that's going to be honestly just great pictures, inspirational things. It is quite a positive place a lot of the time, and so I've set a support group for them. If anyone thinks of something better, I am very happy to hear from them. Twitter is a bit more like a nightclub or bar. It's noisy, there's a lot going on, not the best quality of interaction because of the number of characters, so it's hard. But same as like if you're in a nightclub or bar, you can't say much, like your sentences get shorter because it's such an effort for someone to be heard. But you can meet new people there, so you can earwig on someone's conversation. Like you can literally search the topic that you want to review. You could then start a conversation with that person. But as with a nightclub or bar, you wouldn't continue any good quality relationship just there. You'd move it on to somewhere else. So it can be a great way of finding new people, engaging with new people, getting information, but it's building a relationship is quite hard just because there's so many people normally have so many followers and follow so many people, and not everyone does it in a strategic way. So that's one of the problems. With Facebook, it's more likely to be business to consumer, although you can do business to business stuff that very effectively, particularly with promotional paid campaigns. Instagram is far more likely to be business to consumer as well. The number of things I've bought off Instagram, I've been caught, but marketers are suckers. I think we're the worst people we get suckered as well. So although they were valuable products, like I'm not a complete sucker. Anyway, Twitter can be business to business and business to consumer. LinkedIn is normally, not surprisingly, business to business, but business is normally about people. People doing business with people. It's not just companies. So I'm going to talk a little bit about posting as a company versus posting as a individual. LinkedIn is very much like a business networking event. The kind of posts that you have here are very different from what's on Facebook and Instagram, because they're all there to do business. You can promote, you can write a message on LinkedIn that in Facebook would just be weird, in the same way that you can go on about your work at a business networking event. That's quite normal. If you carried on about your business at a garden party, it'd be like, oh, yawn. But the same is true where there is a balance with a business networking event. Some personal information helps people to get to know, like, and trust you, figure out if you're in their group and they've got enough going on with you. And also equally, a balance of some promotional posts on Facebook occasionally, or sorry, in a garden party, actually isn't bad as long as it's balanced quite right. So you're going to get, there is a complete webinar just on LinkedIn somewhere in the middle of the 12-week series. But essentially, I'd encourage you to post via your company. But if you have anybody working with you, it's important that then you as an individual share that same post, and you encourage anybody who works there to share, because the reach that you will have will be so much more significant, and the engagement that you get will be far more significant from a person than it ever will be from a company. When you're posting from a company, to a large degree, you are just demonstrating the kind of stuff that you do. You're keeping it up to date. You're showing credibility as a company. If you're doing it as a person, you are expecting engagement, and hopefully you can add a more personal note. There are some posts that I put to LinkedIn as a company as a person, that I never would do as a company, because it's all about me being a data nerd or something like that. It's the more personal side. They are the ones that do better. They just sound weird. Pinterest I put on here. I don't think it's relevant to anyone watching. It's like a scrapbooking club. It's not particularly social either. It used to be, and I think it's actually could have gone in the way that Instagram did and just failed to. It's global as well, and a bit more aspirational than realistic. So don't worry about it. The elements that you really want to think about are the demographics of the people on each platform, how likely you are to build trust there. Like I said, Twitter is a pretty poor interaction, so whereas Facebook and Instagram, you're far more likely to build community and personality. Particularly with stories, I think makes quite a big difference to how likely you are to get in front of your audience. The stories refers to Facebook and Instagram. They are the same company, but there we go. That's a key way to make sure that you do actually get seen, but also whether they are a solid route to market. So if you're wondering about demographics, I've got this. It's well worth looking at the entire post. This is from Social Media Demographics to Inform Your Brand Strategy in 2020. Just going to take a drink. Cold coffee. Facebook is mostly catering to people from 18 to 50. I actually thought far more female. I thought that the proportion of females was far higher than that. So I think that's why it's interesting to look regularly. With Instagram, the proportion of females on Instagram is as high as I thought it would be, but it is a much younger group of people. Probably not a shock to anybody here. With Twitter, in fact, people say, I'm the younger generation I've heard of, like, I'm not going on Facebook, my mum's on there. So that's quite a normal thing to hear. Twitter, there's a bit more of a balance. I didn't realise that actually you're more likely to get people between 18 to 30 there, and there's quite a clear balance of men and women. And then with Instagram, you are which one? LinkedIn, you are more likely to get people from 30 to 50. It's not a surprise. That is your professional kind of ages. You're out of education and you're interacting, and that's to be expected. I actually am really pleased to see that it's quite an even split. A few years ago, women didn't engage so much on LinkedIn. However, they dominated all of the social media platforms, and I think it's a way that that women are showing up more in those places. That's the only feminist thing I'm going to say today, I promise. So, general rules, just to cap this off: is your business B2C or B2B or B2C, or business to business or business to consumer? I've already kind of gone through which is which. That's supposed to be, is your business easy to represent visually? That'll make a difference. Instagram, don't even bother if you can't do anything visually, but there's some great things out there like Canva. That's a whole other subject. I think it's probably our third one in. We talked about graphic design and Canva, and we went over that. So there's some brilliant tools in there, and it's worth it for me, the professional version. What category of business are you dealing with? So is it easier to target them on LinkedIn? Is it local or international? If you are business to consumer and you're targeting people on a global level, then Pinterest probably would work for you, as would Instagram. Well, Facebook would as well, but there's just different targeting. I mean, if you're a local company and you're on Pinterest, you're as likely to get people from America getting in front of you, whereas if you're local and you're with Facebook, you can target more heavily. You can target your posts according to location. So say you've got multiple branches, you could send a post that will only really be seen by people I'm in Leicestershire, so I could be saying, you know, within however many miles of where I am, but then I could do the next branch. I could then do a post for one that's like a branch that's in Birmingham, for example. That's particularly helpful for estate agents, people with multiple shops. That's going to make quite a big difference. Are your ideal customer group on the platform? Do you personas, and then it's going to be easy to figure out. So strategies for engagement, I've touched on this very briefly. So what is engagement and why is it important? Don't want to assume that you know. It's honestly anything like a like, a comment or a share. There are different levels of engagement that matter. So a like is like a micro, and I am dealing with Facebook because most people have dealt with it, but there are equivalents on each platform. So a like is almost like a micro engagement. It's probably the smallest commitment that they have to make. A comment means that someone's actually spent time, and that means more, so comments are better. If you ask a question, you might get a comment, so that's the reason why you might want to ask a question in your post. If you don't, you're very unlikely to get any comments. Apart from on LinkedIn, that happens a bit. A share is an even better engagement, because it means that not only is somebody happy to say they'd like it, not only are they happy to engage with it and spend time thinking about commenting it, they are happy for their audience to see it and for them to be in some way connected with the post or represented by it, which says a lot more. So they're probably a bit more weighted depending on what you can get. So the reason why engagement is important is because the more engagement you get on one post, the more likely you are that future posts will be seen. I referred to this algorithm that social media platforms use. The fact is, think about the numbers. I might go on Facebook 3 times a day, maybe. I have 500 friends, not real friends, and 50 pages that I've liked. What's the odds that I'm going to be able to, I can't be shown all of the posts that possibly come up by that audience. So they have to decide what to show me so that I stay there for as long as possible, because they're selling my attention. That's their business model, is selling my attention to other businesses that want to get in front of me. So they want me to stay there for as long as possible, and B, come back as often as possible, and probably bring all my friends. So that algorithm, the whole job of that algorithm is to figure out what content to show me for me to be more likely to do those things. My level of engagement or previous engagement and my friends' engagement in posts is a really good indicator. Well, now they can also see if I've looked at something and gone past, because the fact is, not everything that we like, we're happy to say that we like. Some political views, we're not necessarily going to like something, but we are going to look at it and then scroll past. So you'll also see that you'll see more of that content, because they can figure out if you're pausing on something. And I'm obviously behaving as if I'm on a phone at the moment. So that's the reason why 100 likes of your page doesn't mean 100 views. This is the same across all social media platforms. You can also have 100 likes and end up with 1,000 views of a post, because you get the right level of engagement. It also means to think about, that's why it's important to think about what posts will create engagement, because that will increase reach. And when you've actually got something promotional to share, you are more likely for it to be seen. Having said that, the algorithms have got better, so they recognise what promotional posts look like. But anyway, it means that more of your future things. It is also the reason why you probably need to post regularly, because if you just post once in a while, your engagement rate will have just dropped down, because they will know that other pages and that somebody follows are more likely, they've got more stats on that, so they feel more confident that they can put them forward. So you want a balance of promotional and non-promotional posts. What I used to do is maybe 9 out of 10 posts were non-promotional and then 1 was promotional. Now I seriously, as I said, consider putting some money behind any promotional posts. Would somebody, the kind of things to think about when trying to create engaging content is whether your audience will be happy to share and happy to be seen to like something. Like I said, political stuff is a bit more difficult. Some people at the moment are being criticised for being silent when they should be more vocal about something because they just don't know what to do. So what won't they share as well? Social media, I've already referred to this. The social media involves listening and asking. So if you can do polls, LinkedIn polls at the moment, it's quite annoying because you can only put 4 things. So as long as you've got a question that only has 4 possible answers, you're golden. So polls and things like that can be really, really helpful, or questions. Tagging people in LinkedIn, for example, can be a really good way to increase engagement as well. And then narrowcasting customer profiles will make engagement higher. I don't need to talk about personas again. Go and watch the second one. That's all I've got to say. There's more. Limit which customer profile you target with each platform. I've talked about that with an estate agent. If you've got several customer groups, maybe think about what channel is the best to engage each one in. Be strategic about it. And then think about the anatomy of a good post, which is one of these slides, and we are going to go over. So the types of posts, this is to help your brainstorming. Questions, what questions are you asked that you can answer? There's did you know? There's also what questions can you ask, so that you can help customers feel part of your process. You can share links to posts like tips, information, discussion. As I said on Facebook, these can get lower reach. I haven't seen that with Instagram. It can be a very easy way of just leveraging. Did I say LinkedIn? I hope I did. Not Instagram. It can be a great way to leverage content that you've already produced, maybe for SEO purposes or for your newsletter. So, you know, share that. Or what you can also do is take a post and drill down or cut it into several points. So, and then just create a graph. So if you don't want to link to a post, or do this as well, break it down. Are there ways that you can create a post just from a point, whether that is a graphic with no link to the post or not. Images can be great, depends on your company. Whoops. Often it's good to have your logo on there, so it depends on what you're selling. There's memes. I'm going to show you an example of a meme. Facts, kind of a did you know, any evidence that you are the person to be trusting. So testimonials, articles and case studies. Testimonials are a brilliant one for just putting that trust from know, like and trust. Meet the team for the knowing and the liking, and then stories can also go on there. So you can also create a combination of these for best effect, but balance them out quite well. So these are some posts that we created a long time ago actually, but are still relevant for an ice cream parlour in Northamptonshire. Oh, it's all over the place actually now. So this is, you can see that their logo is in most situations, it's just a funny little thing. The ice cream cone is one of the most environmentally friendly packaging options. That's not a meme, it's just, it's close to it. The answer is ice cream, and I don't care what the question is. That's a bit more like one, it's one that we've made. There are themes for memes that you can find and repurpose it if you want to. There's an example of a testimonial on the top right. So that kind of helps, but not too much. And then there's also sharing the content that other people have put. So that's what we used to do quite regularly. Sources of posts. So there's quote websites around your company and what you do, quoting famous people and then commenting on it. Your current customers, so whether that's FAQs, testimonials or whatever, your own website and blog posts. Google Alerts, if you don't know about it, Google Alerts. And what it enables you to do is to keep track of a particular subject, which is either around your industry. Definitely set up one for your company name, first thing you do, because then if you get any media, any mention of your company, then when Google finds it, you'll be emailed about it. It can be a great source of content, whether that's a blog post that you could then share directly, or whether it's an idea for a post that you might want to develop yourself or extend. Don't obviously rip it off, or taking some things from it in the way that that information was really helpful. Other people on social media, like informers and influencers, I think some of the best content that you can share, if for example on LinkedIn, sharing somebody else's post is a great way to increase engagement with that person, because they probably appreciate it and are going to spend more attention, and it creates this reciprocity or this kind of pressure where they want to help you. There might be people in your industry that you particularly want to follow and share more of what they do. Facebook, you can like other pages, and then you can see what, in the same ways you could do with your connections on LinkedIn, there's an ability to be in there as your page on Facebook and then review what other pages that you've liked do. Like, you have this news feed that's specific to the pages that you've liked from your page, and then you can share and do things like that. You know, there are some people who are your competition, but there are some people who are a bit more adjacent, so you serve the same audience, and without risking that if you share any of their content, you're going to be undermining or sensibly to, you know, your competition by accident. Twitter, even though it is a very noisy place, there's an awful lot of content on there as well. So there's particular hashtags which denote a subject, and you could also create lists, private lists or public ones, of key people to watch. So in my local area, there is a list, for example, of Market Harbour influencers, people who always seem to know what's kind of going on. So if I just create a list of those people, I can create or visit a feed that is only what they're talking about, which can be a really good source of stuff to know, to share and stuff. With LinkedIn, groups and contacts is very valuable, but I just go and look at the LinkedIn thing. I don't want to spend too much time on this. So a good post will represent your brand well. It will ask questions or actually do a call to action. I've mentioned before, be careful and just have a look at whether the questions reduces your reach on Facebook. You can experiment with adding links to see what the impact is. LinkedIn should be fine for that kind of thing. Pictures are the most engaging, even on LinkedIn. Videos are even better. Canva is a great tool for creating images with text in there really, really quickly with your brand identity. Again, there's a video on that in the series. So your main aims are engagement. Think about social media algorithms, that's easy for me to say, behind what people say. Send visitors to a sales funnel ultimately would be ideal, because that's what's supporting your business. That's supporting your business. Don't get too hung up on it, and improve your brand position. I'm going to whiz through these because I just want to talk about measuring analytics later. This is an engagement example, so something that was very engaging. I've put, this is a company that I used to run. It was an e-commerce website selling hair products and makeup to redheads. I created this meme, and the post was quite human. It was right, I'm ready to throw my computer out the window today. I'm reminded of this. Do you keep your temper? Get more quotes here. So I have explicitly said, go to this page as well. We've got 15 comments, 344 shares, and 385 likes at that point when I took the photo. This was also something that I shared quite regularly. The reason why people were happy to share it, not that much less than liking it, was because it represented their identity as a redhead, that they were happy to be seen as. I'm kind of would be embarrassed if I couldn't keep my temper at this point, but plenty of redheads are quite happy to be seen as fiery and angry. I don't know why it's a bit embarrassing, really. So you can see the sort of things going on. It actually says that there's 204 comments in the end on the right hand side. So so that's kind of, it's about their identity. It's thinking about my target group and what they identify as, or how they identify. I'm trying to create a conversation here. Honestly, if you're doing business to consumer stuff, if you talk about pets or children, people start talking, obviously go and insult somebody's children. This was Katie Hopkins. So, you know, this was one of those things where it was a subject, and then we had a link about children and stuff like that. So that got quite a high engagement as well. How many comments was there? 104 comments, and most of them will have been slagging off Katie Hopkins, I think. There's also a pretty divisive one, which was, do you find this offensive or a bit of fun? I found it a bit of fun. I really enjoyed it. But redheads go free on August 19th to celebrate World Orangutan Day. I think some brunettes were annoyed about it because they were wondering when their opportunity to getting free was. So yeah, I just wanted to know what people felt. And then this was a thing about makeup. Let's move on. Then the extension of this is actually having things on the website. So the traffic that we were then getting, this is where the posts on social media would then produce traffic on the website. So I'll garble that a bit. So you can see that we got 272 likes on Facebook for this post, which meant that people also shared. So people, my audience, were happy to share on their Facebook what this post. Does that make sense? I hope so. But redheads in art was a thing. Now remember, I sold hair products and makeup, so but it was all related to their identity and what they're interested in, and it was business to consumer. So the best practices are: plan ahead, be kind to yourself, brainstorm in one go. When you're feeling energized, creative, relaxed. Use tools for managing. We use Hootsuite. There are a few out there. Meet Edgar as well, or a content calendar. Well, we do both, to be honest. We have a content calendar, which is any images, the text, so that it can be proofread, the type of post, what channels it's going to, and no, I think that's it. Allow for daily maintenance for your checkup tasks, going in and commenting or responding, or to whatever's going on, particularly with LinkedIn. Again, review the LinkedIn webinar and really think about frequency, what's going to be reasonable and what's going to be helpful for your audience. So don't set yourself up for failure, but also if you can't commit to a certain amount of frequency, then you might as well, considering everything I said about the algorithms, you might as well not really be doing it. So assessing success. I'm not going to have much time for this, but there is, again, another webinar on measuring digital marketing success quite early on in the series before the midpoint, and there's more detail there. The thing is to make sure that you've got tracking on your website. Add Google Analytics and a Facebook pixel to your website, because once it's there, you don't need to worry about it. You can pick metrics to measure depending on your business goals, but as I said right at the beginning, the whole point is to maybe develop interaction. With social media, you're far more likely to get people at the beginning of their journey, and so that they think of you when they do come to buy. With Google, with any traffic from Google, someone has explicitly searched either your brand or the thing that you sell, because they are either doing the research or they're ready to buy. They are just in a completely different place. Whereas if they've come through from Facebook, they could just be in that kind of dreaming stage where they're just exploring. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then we have another webinar called Developing a Marketing Plan, or it's about planning your marketing. And then there's another one about customer journeys. So that goes into the different stages and what's going on. So this is an example of the kind of thing that you can see in Google Analytics if you've got your things set up properly. We used e-commerce tracking because we were selling products. If you're a service-based business, then you're going to need to refer or create goals that are more about filling out a form, clicking on an email link, going to a particular page. That's what a conversion will be for you. So instead of transactions, you're going to see a number of conversions, and you can also drill down by the type of conversion, whether you only want to see clicking on phone numbers, which can only happen on mobile. But so you can see the sort of numbers we got from, I don't even know what time period this was over, but 31,000 visits, 72% of that was from Google, and then obviously most of my traffic, my conversions were coming from that as well, because they were ready and primed to buy. Doesn't mean that they didn't hear about us via social media in the first place. They may well have done. We got 227. Well, who wants to combine the different? There's 3 different Facebooks there, but not even probably 2.5% of our overall visitors were from Facebook, and maybe a couple of conversions. I'm not bothered about that. There's it was all about brand identity. So this is the kind of information that you kind of get and can be helpful, but that's another subject. I will quickly go through this last one. We did start a little bit later than usual, so I'm sorry guys. I hope that this is not creating a problem for those on the call. So define success. I've talked about this. If you are a business, if you've got an e-commerce platform, set up e-commerce tracking. If you're a service-based business, then define success, whether that's a contact, a visit, a like, or a sign up. There is another webinar about it. Look at but really review your analytics on social media. That's where you're going to get your engagement rates. I've shown you a little bit of that with some of the examples. So that's where you're going to see engagement, and that is really what's going to matter. Also review your brand mentions in search. If you find that your company name is increasing, then that demonstrates that there is an increased brand awareness. With Google Analytics, you can connect Search Console, and Search Console will also show you what search terms the traffic from Google were using, where possible. It's not as good as it used to be, so you will only see a certain percentage, but that gives you awareness. The other thing is Google My Business. You can see how many people found your business, because that's another route where people are getting to your website because of Google My Business, not because of your website. It's a bit frustrating, but what you can see is it gives you a breakdown on whether people are finding your business information on Google because of brand mentions or looking for your brand versus looking for your services. And that's very, very helpful to know, because it tells you whether it's the SEO that's working, or whether it's another way of knowing if the SEO is working, if you're doing some, or whether it's your other marketing that's working. So share marketing links after sharing posts. That will increase engagement. So what I mean is, I knew that meme about carrying on was going to go well, so I put a promotional post. So I had a habit of, it might not work so well now, but sharing stuff that I knew was going to go well, and then not that long afterwards sharing a promotional post because the engagement rate was high. Team up with your website and use Google Analytics for conversion reporting. So what's next? Nothing. That's all, folks. But at the end of the day, there are 11 other webinars in the series, and we do workshops. So if you want to see any of the ones that I keep on talking about or referring to, then go to idealmarketingcompany.co.uk/crisis-communications. If you want to join any of our workshops and webinars, which are longer, more in-depth versions of some of the subjects that we cover, but we work with you to help you develop it, rather than a do-it-yourself with a bit of support. So we've got a whole host of upcoming webinars at the moment. I'm not planning to do workshops, but that means it doesn't matter where you are in the world or in the country, you can come to us. If you do have any questions, then just email jess@idealmarketingcompany.com. So that's all, folks.